Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I'm with Mr. Arif Hussain. We've actually done a couple of podcasts before, and go and check out his channel. I think he's got over 500,000 subscribers. He's based in India. He's an ex-Muslim. He's very anti-religion. He's an atheist and he doesn't believe in God, even though I believe in God. Personally, I'm an ex-Muslim. We have our differences, but there are many things that we do agree on. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, Yunus. Happy to be here after a long time.
So this is the third time we're having a conversation, actually. And it's interesting because, funnily enough, exactly 1 year ago, when I went viral regarding the Sharia for UK video, you were one of the first people that got in contact with me. And we done a hour-long, or I think 2-hour-long podcast almost. And the video is done really well. And a year has passed. And it's funny that after a year, we are almost speaking about the same issue again. The rise of Islamism in the West, the fact that people like Tommy Robinson are in jail now, even though he's in jail on contempt of court charge. We all know why he's in jail. He called out the grooming gangs in Luton and, or Rochdale and all over the place. And basically, he was accused of being an Islamophobe, even though he was correct. He exposed them 10 or 15 years ago. He spoke about it, but all the BBC done is to basically call him a racist and an Islamophobe.
Could you just give a brief idea of what this grooming gang is and when did it happen and what it is exactly?
So grooming gangs, basically, because, Muhammad married a 9-year-old child. So in Islam, they think
6-year-old
it's
child
okay.
Consummated at 9. That's
yes. So let me repeat. So Muhammad married Aisha at 6 years and consummated at 9. So in Islam, they think because their prophet married a 9-year-old child, it's okay to have a wife that's a 9-year-old child or a wife that's pubescent. And what does pubescent mean? When you hit puberty. And even people like Mohammed Hijab that live in the UK came out and said, as long as the girl's hips are wide enough, you can marry that woman. So in Islam, in Islam, and we have Sharia courts also in UK. I think London or UK is the center of Sharia courts in Europe. There are more Sharia courts in the UK than there are on any other city or any other country in Europe. So
is it government supported or is it government supported? This Sharia courts
I don't think it's government supported, but it exists. I don't think it's a part of government, but it exists. Anyway, because Muhammad married a 9-year-old child, Muslims believe that it's okay to marry or have sex with pubescent people. And hence why these grooming gangs are as a result of this ideology. And these grooming basically means you go and find vulnerable teenagers or maybe even children that are of age or they are pubescent, and you try to either marry them or have sex with them or use them as sex slaves or use them as a temporary marriage. So there was grooming gangs in Rochdale, there was grooming gangs in Luton, and these mostly Pakistani men went and basically found these vulnerable girls that were 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. And they basically groomed them. At first, they used to bring them in. They give them, nice candies or give them a nice bag, bring them in the car. Then, slowly and surely bring them in and start, having sex with them and raping them and then sharing them and then eventually gang rape them and gang abuse them. And this came out. This has been happening for 25 years. And it was exposed by people like Tommy Robinson. It went on deaf ears. They called him Islamophobic. But now we know it happened, and it happened for a fact. And 1,500 young girls were molested, abused, and basically raped because the government didn't take action. And we had weak, pathetic politicians like Keir Starmer that didn't want to be called Islamophobic. And that's why they didn't investigate it as properly as they should have. So what's your opinion on that in general?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you something I remember, as you said, we did that video almost long ago.
And 1 year ago, exactly. I think 1 year ago. It was in January last year, yeah.
Okay, so before October 7th, right? So
No, after October 7th.
After
October
October
7th
7th.
happened in 2023. We had the interview January
Oh,
2024.
okay, okay. So I'm just wanted to ask you something like, what is the extent of change that you see in UK living there? The the way by which Islam has grown over there, Islamism has grown over there, and how much threat it is posing today, comparing it with 1 year ago.
I think it's actually, well, I don't know if it's gotten worse or better. I don't know. In the UK specifically. But I think what we started a fire, and I think more and more people are questioning it now. So I think after a year, a lot more people are less afraid to speak about Islam and criticize Islam. Because before, if you spoke about Islam, we were Islamophobic. But I think now it has become a lot more mainstream, whereas before it was very niche, especially with what's happening with Tommy Robinson. And as you know, I met Tommy Robinson and I spoke to him about this. I think people are just now a lot more comfortable speaking about it, and that's probably because of people like me and you, from that background. Because we speak about it, they're like, okay, then we can speak about it. Because, the charge is, if you cannot speak about things, if you don't come from that culture, which is a ridiculous idea. You should be able to criticize bad ideas in society. Communism is a bad idea, so is Islam.
So, do you think that the usual shield of Islamophobia is no more working? I'm seeing this in my place in India. We are seeing such a transformation in the society where little more acceptance is there when you criticize Islam, comparing it with the previous years. And also,
Yeah.
do you mean to say it this way?
Yeah, I think so. I think more and more people are coming out and speaking up. I think we defeated the woke mind virus, especially in America with Trump being elected. And as we spoke about the unholy marriage of woke and Islamism, I think that curse has been broken to some extent. And Trump being elected is an evidence of that. But also the rise of parties like the Reform Party in the UK is also another evidence of that. Tommy Robinson becoming very mainstream and people like Elon Musk speaking about it is also another sign. And I just think people are sick and tired of being called Islamophobic when they criticize Islam based on facts, And one of the facts, I'm going to show a video to the audience. This is what Islam says about women.
On concubines.
A Muslim man can have up to 4 wives at once. In addition to the 4 wives, he can have an unlimited number of concubines, which refer to women who are basically have slave status when they are owned by her master. A woman owned by her master. Has to freely give herself to the master. The master has the right to have sexual relations with her as though she were one of his wives.
And does consent play into this at all, or can we?
The understanding is that by virtue of the fact that she's owned, she does not have the right to consent. Or to withhold herself from her master. The master has the full right over her, and her consent does not play anything in this.
And this is what I don't understand, why any women would be a Muslim. Because in Islam, women are second-class citizens. In Islam, women are entitled to half the inheritance of that of a man. A woman's eye testimony is worth half of that of a man. In Islam, men can have multiple different wives, but a woman can only have one husband. And when she has a child, the child belongs to the man. In Islam, men can have sex slaves and they can beat their wives if they disobey them. So no wonder people like Andrew Tate are converting to Islam. So, that's a video I made like last year, So now you can see the signs. I saw your post on X and you said there is Islam has a rape culture. Do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, this is something related to what you played just now. And do you know that the person who is talking over there and to whom it is talked to? Shabir Ali is the person, and he's talking to his own daughter, I think. That's some relation between them. Yeah. So
wow.
it's a peculiar, correct me if I'm wrong, if someone is there. It's the most, the most iconic speech or something, a teaching, a a father can deliver to his daughter. That's what we just listened to. You can listen to the words that he was referring to: slave, master, own, these kind of words. And she was asking about consent, and you can imagine how consent plays a role in Islam. It's zero role when it comes to the women. Forget about being a slave. So now that's it. And when we say this, it is actually referring to the rape culture in Islam. And I think it will be better known for you, for being a person from Iran, how this hijab rule, it is being mentioned in Iran by using a term which is associated with hijab, that is hijab and chastity. That's how it is used in your place. The hijab and chastity rule, it is called as. So chastity law. So when you say that hijab means you are a woman with virtue, so what do you mean by a woman without hijab? That means she could be raped, she could be eve-teased, and anything can be done to her. That's how it is mentioned in Islam. So the instances where hijab rule, or the law of hijab was mentioned in Islam, the context in which that was made. It was asked by Umar to the Prophet, and he was constantly asking for that, because when he was doing this business in the night, eve-teasing women over there, most of the time he happened to eve-tease over Prophet's own wives. So he had to stop that. So he wanted something to demarcate between the slaves and the free women, and for that he wanted this. And you know that how it went. And one day Sauda was spotted by Umar, and Sauda went to Prophet, and she mentioned about this. Your friend Umar, he was looking at me this way when I was at that what do you say, the defecation place. And the next fine morning, the hijab rule was in place. So it is just to demarcate between free women and the slaves. That's the sole purpose of hijab. And now when we listen to the women today, Muslim women, they portray themselves as the Islamic feminists, and they say that hijab is for empowerment. That's how we say. So with all this, considering all this, and even with how Islam can accept slave women and this concubine, all those things, we can easily say a woman, if she is not wearing hijab, if she is not observing Islamic clothing items and all, she could be raped. And that is being explicitly been mentioned by many Islamic scholars, where when they complain about the rise of rape or some other atrocities against women in Islam, in Islamic societies, the first thing that they will cite is that, were you wearing a hijab? Were you wearing an Islamic attire? No. That's the reason why you got raped. So it's a kind of victim blaming that Islam encourages, and that's how Islam mention about rape. And there's no explicit mentioning of rape in Islam. That's another thing. In Islam, only thing is that you cannot fornicate. Okay, that's how Islam mentions. You cannot fornicate a free woman, but you can do that with slaves and kafir. That's how Islam teaches. So, and even you know the muta marriage, the temporary marriage, even that is allowed, and that is not considered as a rape or some fornication. Even that is allowed. So all these things are so weird in Islam. There's no clarity for the word rape in Islam. So that's it. Islam promotes it in a way.
Yeah, exactly. And also, if you look at the life of Muhammad, I think that Muhammad, pretty much his whole life, he came up with verses to fulfill his own sexual fantasies. Every time he attacked a city and he see a lot of beautiful women, all of a sudden God told him, oh, you know what? The women of that land are now permissible, and now you can have them as sex slaves, and you can have multiple different wives. And he committed genocide on the Jewish community of Khaybar, and he killed Kanana, the leader of that community, and married his wife called Sophia and slept with her on the same night he killed Kanana. And that was the type of person he was. So Muhammad himself had 11 different wives. I think he had unlimited different sex slaves, and he had a lot of temporary marriages. So if that is your prophet, and if that's the example he's setting for the rest of you, imagine the rest of you. So obviously Islam facilitates rape. Islam facilitates women being second-class citizens. So it's not a conspiracy, or it's not Islamophobic to say these grooming gangs in Rochdale, in Luton, these people are following the example of the Prophet. That's not an Islamophobic to say. And the fact that the BBC and the mainstream media and people like Keir Starmer covered it up is anti-truth. And they all hide it under this banner of Islamophobia. It's not Islamophobic. Go and read the Quran. Go and read the life of Muhammad. Go and read the Hadiths. And you will see that in the Hadiths and in the Quran, in the life of Muhammad, rape was allowed.
Yeah. I have a question here. What made this topic a hot, steaming subject of discussion today? Because I remember in our last discussion, I asked you the same question about this grooming gangs and how it is over there and what action is being taken and all these things. But we were not having a proper, an explanation or some information regarding that. But now everything is outside, and the platform, the X, it is giving out.
I think there's a few different reasons for that. Look, there are the few reasons, different reasons. The first reason is actually people like me and you that openly came out and criticized Islam and questioned it. So I think we gave a lot of confidence to people. The second reason is that the tide is turning. As I said, the virus, the woke mind virus and the Islamification is almost dying down. A lot more people are coming out and questioning these things. And also people like Elon Musk. The reason why it came out, I think why it's important now, is because Keir Starmer was the head of the Crown Prosecution Service in the United Kingdom during the time these rape gangs and these grooming gangs were operating. And the allegation is that he didn't do a proper job. He didn't go after these criminals. He didn't go after these rapists because he said it's Islamophobic to go after Pakistani grooming gangs when in reality was happening, you know? And then after 10 or 15 years, with everything that's happening with Tommy Robinson, it's come to the surface. And people like Elon Musk have picked up on it and they've made it public, and it has become this big thing. And it's not only just about the grooming gangs. It's the fact that they stopped real crimes because they were virtue signaling regarding Islamophobia. That's the real conundrum here, you know? So you allowed I think 1,400 or 1,500 girls get raped and abused, and you weren't willing to investigate, and you weren't willing to prosecute, and you weren't willing to jail and go after these people because you thought he was Islamophobic. How much of a coward are you? How much of an imbecile are you? There's no such thing as Islamophobia. Islamophobia means an irrational fear of something. There's no irrational fear of Islam because of the reasons we already discussed. And on that note, I want to play a video by Tommy Robinson.
There should have been a revolution in this country over the rape and prostitution, torture and murder of our daughters in every town and city. Not just the fact that the Islamic gangs done it, the fact that they knew about it.
They covered it up.
The police forces knew about it. They all let it happen. And they say it out loud. They let a generation of our daughters be kidnapped and raped, and they did not care. We are seen by them as cattle, yeah? And they do not fear us. And when we fear them, that's tyranny. When they fear us, that's democracy, yeah? And we need to, I said, we've sat back, we need to get organised, we need to unite this nation. All we're hearing about is the Muslim vote, the Muslim vote. Well, the Muslims make up 7% of the UK, yeah? We are a majority. We have had enough of mass immigration. No one's asked us, did we want 1 million people imported last year? No one asked us if we want to continually go into war. No one asked us. That's not democracy. No one's asking us the key decisions, yeah? The key decisions that are affecting us all.
Right. So again, to reiterate the point, they knew about it and they covered it up because of virtue signaling, because they didn't want to, offend the Muslim population in the UK. And I just think that's so absolutely pathetic, and that's why freedom of speech is so paramount. The fact that you can't criticize an idea, and let's keep it real, Islam is an idea. Okay, it's not like and I always say this to people, look, we're not attacking Muslims. Okay? We are attacking Islam as an ideology. There's a difference between Muslims and Islam. You're allowed to criticize Islam. Someone can be a communist and they can be your friend, but you disagree with them. You're like, no, communism doesn't work. I'm a capitalist. That's the same concept when it comes to Islam.
Yeah. But when we speak about this today, the previous ministry of Rishi Sunak, and in that ministry, we had seen Suella Braverman. She came up with this issue once, and she was facing a lot of backlashes for some of her comments over this, and racist comment and other things. How do you see that? Like, so do you think that that ministry was a little more proactive in stopping this or in punishing all these people behind when comparing with the ministry now?
Well, the thing is, I think the Conservative Party and the Labour Party are different sides to the same coin. These are establishment politicians. These are establishment parties. Although I would say the Conservatives are slightly better than Labour, I don't see much of a difference between them. Okay? And these parties, they are controlled by the globalists. They believe in the great replacement theory. They believe in mass migration. They go against freedom of speech. Anytime you criticize anything, like if you talk about COVID, for example, you know, oh, we don't want to wear the mask, we don't want to take the jab, because if we take the jab, it doesn't make a difference. We can still catch COVID and we can still pass it on. So why should I take the jab? It doesn't make a difference. They don't want you to question things. They don't want you to question Black Lives Matter, saying, well, we live in a racist society. No, we don't live in a racist society. We actually live in one of the most tolerant countries in the world. They don't want you to question anything. And these are the same people, the same breed of politicians. However, the tide is turning. We have now a lot more authentic, outspoken politicians coming and speaking more freely with less fear, because people are fed up. People are fed up of mass migration. People are fed up of this whole woke ideology, the fact that you can't question anything without being called a racist, sexist, whatever, right? So the tide is turning. And that was one of the criticisms that Elon Musk, because Elon Musk had a feud with Nigel Farage recently. And one of the reasons that Reform done so well is because Nigel Farage was very outspoken about many different things. However, the thing is, when he got elected into parliament, he started morphing into another politician. He started becoming all robotic and trying to be all politician-y and all diplomatic. And he almost betrayed his own people. He almost betrayed the people that voted for him, because he morphed into another politician. And that's the problem Elon Musk has with Nigel Farage. He's like, you should support people like Tommy Robinson. Look, the thing is, I understand Tommy Robinson is a very divisive character in the UK. Some people think he's absolutely disgusting. Some people think he's racist. And most politicians, they say, look, we cannot have our name attached to Tommy Robinson. And the reason for that is not only they see him as a racist, they also see him as a criminal, because he committed mortgage fraud, and he committed like other frauds, like he faked his passport to go to America, like petty crimes. But overall, he's a mixed bag. I don't agree with everything that Tommy Robinson says, just on the record. I do not agree with everything that Tommy Robinson says. The one thing I agree with him on is the fact that Europe and UK is being Islamized, and we shall speak against Islam as an ideology, and we shouldn't be afraid to go off the grooming gangs in the fear of being called Islamophobic. Because as you said, and as I said, rape culture is systematic in Islam. Yeah, it's not just a group of people, it's systematic, because their prophet used to do it, and it happens in their culture. That's why. Yeah, it's a part of that system itself. That's exactly what we all should say, and we all should realize that basic aspect. So when is there any particular comments made by the Rishi Sunak or Suella pertaining to the recent developments? I think these people are out of government now, so it's mostly Keir Starmer, and Keir Starmer is saying, "Oh, everyone's jumping on the far-right bandwagon." There's no such thing as far-right bandwagon. What the fuck are you talking about? This guy, he was the head of the Crown Prosecution Service. He's now scared, because if there's a full investigation into this thing of rape and grooming gangs, he might lose his job. He might have to resign, because if it comes to the forefront that he didn't investigate these allegations because of Islamophobia, and he allowed all those girls to be raped. I just don't see a bigger crime than that. And you have to see, it's very, very dark. Some of the things that happened to these girls were very dark. Some we can't even speak about it on YouTube, but they were very, very young girls, and they were abused by multiple different men at the same time.
We can try showing those images of those reports. I have seen a few, some portions of that.
So I mean, Elon Musk posted something about it on his X, and he said he read through the cases, and he said he was horrified. The fact that something like this would be allowed to happen, and for government not to investigate it as it should, because they don't want to be seen as Islamophobic, not only is weak, but it's also it comes from a place of virtue, but not like, what's the opposite of virtue? It's like the opposite of virtue. No, so it's not only weakness, it's the fact that they wouldn't investigate it because they're just ignorant. That's the word. They're just ignorant. They don't know what they're talking about, and they're giving to external pressure.
So usually we mention it this way, that is the two-tier policing that's rampant in UK. That's what always we say. So but when we see all these things and the previous court proceedings and other things, it's not just two-tier policing. It is even two-tier legal system that is existing in UK. Would you agree to that?
Yes, because there's a lot of people now in jail, and that's the irony of all this, with the whole Southport riots a few months ago, last year I should say. There are people in jail now for like 7 years, some of them 7 years for an ex post. They are in jail because of something they said on Twitter, or because of something they said on Facebook. And these
against
people go
the
to
government
jail.
Or against Islam or something?
No. They said something about, they're saying they were inciting violence. And some of them were, some of them weren't. But however, I just don't think anyone should be ever in jail because of an ex post, ever, regardless of the issue. Unless the only time I would say is inciting violence is when someone's really specific. When someone says, okay, go outside someone's house at this time and kill that person. That's incitement of violence. However, if you want to comment about Southport riots, even if your idea is very extreme, you shouldn't be in jail. Okay? But that's the whole irony of it. People are in jail now because of some Twitter posts or some Meta posts for 7 years. And there are people that, part of these grooming gangs 10 or 15 years ago that are walking freely now in the street, and they haven't been prosecuted, or they weren't prosecuted back then. And now a lot of MPs came and voted that, these people shouldn't be deported. Why shouldn't they be deported? Like, what do they add to our society?
So are there any new incidents like this, or is it completely stopped, or any intervention to stop that?
I think now they are taking it more seriously. They are taking it more seriously now. However, as I said, Keir Starmer is a dying breed of politician. He was the head of the Crown Prosecution Service when these grooming gangs were happening. He didn't do his job correctly, and now he's scared. Okay? But he's the last breed. Because look, change is happening in Europe. More and more people are sick and tired of these establishment politicians. We saw what happened with Biden. Trump came and took over. We're seeing now what's happening in the UK with the rise of the Reform Party and Nigel Farage and Tommy Robinson and Elon Musk buying Twitter. And all over Europe, these, populist movements are rising. I don't believe in the left and the right anymore. I believe in the populist versus establishment. And another establishment politician that has actually facilitated the Islamification of Canada has recently resigned. So let's just watch a quick video regarding that.
Friends, as you all know, I'm a fighter. Every bone in my body has always told me to fight because I care deeply about Canadians. I care deeply about this country, and I will always be motivated by what is in the best interest of Canadians. And the fact is, despite best efforts to work through it, Parliament has been paralyzed for months after what has been the longest session of a minority parliament in Canadian history. That's why this morning I advised the Governor-General that we need a new session of Parliament.
So you get the point, basically. Justin Trudeau just recently resigned because people are sick and tired of him. He is just like Keir Starmer. He invited hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of, from the Islamic Republic, the Islamic Republic of Iran. People were going and investing their money in Canada, and he was allowing them. And these are like IRGC members going to Canada and investing their money. And he was allowing it to happen. Not only that, Canadian people couldn't afford housing anymore. There was a big demographic change. There was a rise of Islamification, but there was also a rise of the woke mind virus all over Canada, which led to Justin Trudeau resigning. I see that happening in the UK as well with Keir Starmer.
Okay, so do you find any ray of hope in Europe to stop this Islamization, apart from Poland?
No, I actually do. Because I think when I started this whole thing, a lot of people were saying to me, Eunice, be careful. Eunice, they're going to come after you. They're going to try and kill you. You're going to be the... what was the guy's name? The guy that got attacked. He has one eye now. What's his name?
One eye. Okay.
The guy that got attacked on stage.
Oh, okay. Salman Rushdie. Yeah.
Salman Rushdie. Exactly. So when I started, everyone was saying, be careful, Eunice. You don't want to become like Salman Rushdie, blah, blah, blah. Family members getting worried, friends getting worried. But I was never worried. I was never worried because I was like, the truth shall prevail. And I think after 1 year, the fact that these things are becoming mainstream now, the fact that people like Elon Musk are speaking about it, the fact that Tommy Robinson held these huge rallies with hundreds of thousands of people coming, the fact that Nigel Farage, the fact that Trump got into office, and as I said, the fact that Trudeau, Macron, all these, establishment, weak, pathetic politicians are going, it shows that we are in the right direction, and it has been a good years of work, but we still have a long way to go.
Okay. So do you think that this is going to affect the immigration policies in UK, especially because everything is now tied to the immigration, and they are seen as the main culprits in all this. So do you think that it's going to affect the immigration?
This Labour government doesn't care much about immigration. I think we had a lot of illegal immigrants coming to the country ever since Keir Starmer got elected. So at this moment in time, this government hasn't done anything, but people are sick and tired of it. That being said, I just think that the immigration policy all throughout Europe and America has been wrong. And the reason for that is that you look at other countries, you look at Dubai, you look at Singapore, you look at all these countries that are developing, they have immigrants. Like Dubai is 80% immigrants. However, they go and handpick these immigrants, or they try to attract the richest, the most competent, the wealthiest, the most specialized individuals into their society so they can come and work and prosper and take the overall level up. However, in the West, the mistake we made is that we take people from third world countries with no skill sets, people that don't even speak English, and they have these extreme ideological backgrounds, people from Pakistan and Afghanistan and Syria, and they come here and it becomes a breeding ground for terrorism. It becomes a breeding ground for these grooming gangs, and the government is too weak and pathetic to do anything about it because they want to virtue signal and they don't want to be called Islamophobic. Yeah.
Okay. So that's a very valid observation, I would say, because I haven't ever thought about that way of immigration, which is handpicking the immigrants, and something that happened in the West is exactly opposite to that. So every Tom, Dick, and Harry is there in the West.
Exactly. Exactly. No, the thing is, we need to learn lessons. The West is collapsing. I know there was going to be a bump with Trump coming into power, and I think Trump will help a lot. The West in general, and I hope people like Farage or the Reform Party come into power as well. And I hope the same thing happens all throughout Europe, because it's best for all. Multiculturalism works as long as people adapt and assimilate and pick up the overall level of culture, not bring down. And Islamification of Western societies bringing down the overall culture. It's not picking it up.
Yeah. One thing I just wanted to ask you is about this organized crime. This is something, when we speak about the the grooming gangs, it looks like an organized crime, some cartels operating that way. So, did you get a chance to look at the statistics or some crime records where to specifically say that it is pertaining to Islam and the Muslims from Pakistan really committing all this? When comparing with other organized crimes, do you have a chance, or what do you think about
As a
that?
ratio, yes. As a ratio, look, at the end of the day, it's still a white majority country. Okay, so obviously most of the crime is still committed by whites, but it's because it's a white majority country. However, if you look at it as a ratio, especially when it comes to sexual harassment and, you know, grooming and rape, Pakistani men especially, they are overrepresented by a substantial margin, you know. So the thing what I tell these people, okay, immigrants is fine, you can have immigrants in your country, but at the same time you have to facilitate an environment where you can have freedom of speech and challenge bad ideas. This idea that you can't speak about Islam and hence why you're Islamophobic, it stops us from having a genuine conversation.
Okay.
You understand? Or the fact that we can't speak about LGBTQ and we can't say, no, there isn't 100 different genders. What are you talking about? You know? But I think that's the tide is turning. I think that's behind us now. That was like last year and the year before and the year before. I think towards the end of 2024 and especially the beginning of 2025, the tide is turning where more and more and more people are becoming aware. And look, I said this before, but I'm going to say it one more time. I'm not going after Muslims. I'm going after Islam as an ideology. You know why? Because I want to free Muslims. You know, me and you were Muslim once upon a time. And you can see it's a mental cage. You want to free Muslims of that mental cage. So we are actually trying to do Muslims a favor. We're trying to do them a favor, saying, look, this ideology that you have in your head is wrong. It's making you unhappy, but it's also making everyone else unhappy. It's making the whole of society unhappy. And the fact that you immigrated from your country to this country is to escape Sharia law and escape Islam. And the fact that you can't see that is just beyond comprehension.
This must be discussed, and the exact ideological backing given by Islam also should be made a subject here. So I think that serves the purpose of our discussion today.
Exactly. Well, thanks for coming on, my friend. Guys, this episode is going to be both on my channel, on Arif's channel as well. So, thank you very much for coming on, my friend. This is the third time we had. Hopefully, we're going to have a lot more in the near future. Maybe one day in person. Who knows?
Yes, definitely. Very soon.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. Till next time.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Yep. Bye-bye. Thanks.